Reconnect and heal today. Welcome to Love Never Dies with Dr. Jamie Turndorf.
Everybody, and welcome to Love Never Dies Radio on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. We go out into 136 countries, and we're also Dr. Turndorf, Turn on the Love on Binge Networks television. So I have a question for you. Are you ready to live the power of love rather than the love of power? My guest today thinks it's time for all of us to go that route. And she says COVID has given us the chance to slow down, to think, to become mindful of what we're doing to ourselves and to our planet. And also to really become aware of the fact that our bodies are groups of systems working together cooperatively to keep us healthy. And if one system becomes competitive and draws energy away from the others, it throws us out of balance and causes dis-ease. So it's time for people of all ages, says my guest, to start waking up and becoming conscious about what needs to be done. And we as conscious elders have the resources to really begin to make a difference, to claim our strength, courage, knowledge, and wisdom, and use it to create better relationships and a better world. So I want to introduce you to Patti Ernst. She was born in Chicago, and after earning her degrees in Iowa, Michigan, and Georgia, she moved to Rochester, New York, and she taught for 30 years in the public and private school systems. At 56, Patti had already been a wife, a mother, a teacher for over 35 years when she realized it was time to move forward and embrace her passion and purpose. She moved to Alaska and began her explorations of the world and the renewal of herself. She moved on to Hawaii, where she worked at the Four Seasons on the Big Island as a massage therapist. And then she sailed for 2.5 years. And at 66, she built a retreat-style resort where people now come from all over the world to get back to themselves and nature and experience serenity. And in the process, she has come to appreciate the value of gentle strength, inner serenity, and reinventing ourselves as we age. Now, Patti has written 2 books. She's a massage therapist, has a master's degree in education. She's a Reiki master, a yoga teacher, a meditation teacher, a Chopra certified perfect health instructor, and housewife and mother, actress and country girl. We were goofing about that. Her focus is helping herself and others keep body, mind, spirit, and every part of ourselves functioning optimally so that life on this planet can be a joyful adventure filled with meaningful service. So without further ado, welcome, Patti. It's good to have you all the way from Tonga. That's where you are, Tonga.
That's where I am.
Now, you know, when my publicist just showed me your book cover and said, I'm promoting this book, I said, tell me a little more about this woman. And when I heard that you had reinvented yourself in your later years, I thought, what a timely topic for all of us now. People stuck home, hating their jobs, not liking working remotely. And it's a great opportunity, and you're a really good role model for starting over, following your dreams, your passions. So I said, I want her to come on the show. And she said, okay. And she put me in touch with you. And she said, you're in Tonga. And I said, oh, I know Tonga because I have a patient who has a daughter and a son-in-law and 2 grandchildren who lived on a boat docked in Tonga. And she would go to visit them and stay on the boat. So I knew Tonga. And tell everybody where Tonga is on the map.
It's north of New Zealand and east of Australia, south of Samoa, southeast of Fiji. So kind of get an idea. So many times when I'm in the States, I say I'm from Tonga and people say, where? They have no idea.
Right. But
and
visualize. And it's a little tiny island, right?
Well, there's 176 islands. And there's 3 main islands, and there's 100,000 people on 176 islands. But there are probably more Tongans overseas than there are in Tonga.
Oh, for real? Okay, so over all these islands, it's how many miles, if you want? How many square miles are all these islands?
Oh, I don't even know that. I'm sorry.
But it's just like a trick. I didn't think it was a trick question, but maybe it's not huge. It's not like Texas.
Okay, No. It takes probably an hour to fly from one end, from the furthest point south to the furthest point north.
It's really
So,
cool. Yeah. So, and
yeah, so
why'd you pick Tonga as the location for your retreat center?
well, I was wandering around I had sailed for 2.5 years and kind of going and looking to see. And I love Tonga because it's very remote. I'm living on an island where there are no cars, no people, it's just totally isolated. It's 6 miles to walk around the perimeter, all on sand. No villages on this island. And so Tonga has beautiful white sand beaches, beautiful countryside, wonderful people that are very spiritual and godly, and very patient and kind and giving. Giving is the number one thing here, is just giving to help people out. If you need food, you go to your neighbor and ask for some. All the people have their own land. The king has given everybody. It's still a kingdom. It's never been ruled by any other country. And land is given to the people, so they have their own land. So there is no poverty. People just help each other out. And so they are living from their hearts here. And I think that's what drew me, was the population and the way they live, but also the beauty. It's just amazing. As I look at this island, it looks the same way as it did 100,000 years ago. It's just, and I built the resort with the little houses all around tucked in, so that if you go past in a boat, you can't tell there's anything here. So, and when people come here, they stay in their little house and they interconnect when they come for dinner. But most of the time they look out and they can't even tell anyone else is on the island with them. And you can walk around the whole island and never see another person. During the high season, when it's busy, you may see some people, but not very many. And I look at the beaches in Europe, where they have the chairs all set up and the umbrellas, and it's like, oh my gosh, what a different thing a beach is here.
Totally. And so it sounds very much like a communal kind of lifestyle, which is really how we are meant to live, with interconnections and interdependence. And in this island, do people use money, or do they just mostly barter?
Oh no, well, they do both actually, but money is very common. It's not that they live in indigenous ways, but they definitely are part of the 21st century, and so many of them speak English. At first, when I came 15 years ago, they didn't, but now so many of the young people almost all the young people speak English, and they use money, but they definitely barter. Or they definitely give. My partner goes to town and he always comes back with bananas or kava or cassava or sweet potato, something, Tongan food of some sort that people have just given to him. And he always gives, when he has an opportunity, he always gives. So it's, yeah, very much an exchange kind of thing.
Very much like other centuries. And do people here grow most of their own food?
A good portion, definitely. There's certainly people who have gone into the packaged noodles and the potato chips and things like that. But as long as they eat and grow their own food, I'm in the Middle Island group, which is much more poor than the North and South Island groups. And they definitely grow their own food, eat their own food, and fish, and they raise pigs. And so they're pretty self-sufficient.
It's really a much cleaner environment. So we don't have all the problems that we have in the Western world with the glyphosate residues, even making their way into organic food through tainted manure that taints the produce. Here, they don't use those kinds of pesticides. They just grow naturally, and what lives.
Right. There are some people in the larger farms in the main city, I think, that do. I've heard that they do spray things, but especially in the outer islands where I am, they grow it much more naturally. And so it's wonderful to be away from all of that and to be in an environment. And we collect our own water. We have water tanks and a water roof that feeds into the water tank, so we collect our own water. The electricity comes from the sun. We have solar panels on the roof, and so the electricity comes. So talk about clean, wonderful living. And it's just, I just love it. I've thought about moving back to the States, and I'm like, oh, cars and all kinds of things.
There are no cars. No cars, right?
Where I'm living, there are no cars. In town, yes, there are, but a few. And there's one island to the north of us. There's one island that probably has, many cars. But the island south of us has 1 or 2 cars on the whole island, and we have none. So
yeah, you have internet.
Isn't that a miracle? I mean, it's just so amazing. And my daughter called me yesterday, and she texted me and said, give me a call. And within a minute, I was talking to her in Arizona. I have one in Arizona and one in Florida. And I said, this is just miraculous that you can just text me and I can call immediately. It's cheaper for me to call her than her to call me, but it's really remarkable. And I've just been reading a wonderful book called Braiding Sweetgrass. Have you come across that?
No.
Well, it's all about the Native American way of life, and it's a very current book, but this woman goes back and remembers her childhood, and it just warmed my heart so completely. And I thought, that's the way I'm living. And I wish everybody could be moving back to that way of living.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, if you want to get your hair done, if you want to get your hair bleached or colored, there are salons.
No, I go out. I put a little lemon on my hair and I go out in the sun. I tell people my hairdresser is called Ra and Mariah. Mariah's the wind and Ra's the sun. And that's it. So, yeah. And I cut it every once in a while. I haven't cut it for a long time. But
there's no salon. So you're going to cut it yourself or forget it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. Where I live. Now, I can go down to the capital city. And yes, I probably can find a salon down there, but I have never done that. I just live in this natural way.
And it's warm all year round?
It is. Mm-hmm.
Right. So are you like in Australia and New Zealand where the seasons are reversed with?
Absolutely. Yes.
So now you're coming out of your summer and heading into winter?
Absolutely. Yes, that's
right. Right. Oh, and you know what else I was wondering? When you describe putting up all these little bungalows as part of your resort, do you have to deal with planning boards and getting, site plan approval and engineering drawings, or do you just put them up?
Initially, we did. I had to get approval. I had to have things drawn. And I went sailing off to Bali for 2 years. I mean, I went sailing for 2.5 years and ended up in Bali. And I ended up through just interesting circumstances. I met a man on a plane. We got off in a different country, got back on the same plane. I hadn't talked. And I said, I think we need to talk. And he said, when you get back to Bali, you need to look at the houses they build there. I mean, I had no idea. I was in Bali. I looked at the houses. They were beautiful. So I had all the houses built in Bali. And then I realized that I had plans drawn and that the architect had to approve it. And so I called up and I said, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. Look what I did. Is there any way you can help me out? And he said, don't worry, it's okay. And so there was a planning board and I did have to have the plans, but there's a bit of flexibility. And now when I need something built, I don't necessarily. I think if you're in the city, you need approval. But where I am right now, it's pretty laid back.
You just build what you want.
In a sense, I think I have to meet certain standards and I have to keep back so far from the ocean. And I wondered, why do I have to keep back so far from the ocean? Well, with the number of hurricanes we have, I understand now. Because I did build my massage folly out on the sea, right near the beach. And it got totally smashed in the last hurricane. So we had to rebuild that. So that would not be nice if it happened to all the houses. The massage folly is very easy. It's woven coconut leaves and coconut posts. Oh. So that was easy to replace.
That's different. So,
So there are some regulations.
so how many people can you have at a time at your center?
35 is about that's about our limit. We most often have less than that, but we can fit in about 35. And then we have 15 staff during the high season. So we have 35 guests and 15 staff. So, and we have 2 boats and we go swimming with the whales. And so there's another resort about a 10-minute walk down the beach. And if we have a large group, we can use, they're about the same size we are. So we combine and have a larger group, but mostly it's for small groups. And we do have a lot of yoga groups, free diving groups, but we also have individuals. And so it's just such a wonderful place for people to come and get back to themselves, get back to nature. We are so hurting that we aren't spending as much time in nature as we need to spend in nature. And so getting out and breathing the fresh air and realizing that the plants are giving to us and we are giving to the plant. It's a mutual kind of symbiotic relationship. And so
is that bell coming from you, Patti? Is it a notification that came from your phone, or
that was my computer made a sound. I'm sorry. And I don't know how to turn it off.
Oh, maybe I can help you with that. When we go to our first break in a few minutes, what you would do is you go into your preferences and then you look for notifications, and then you just make them all go bye-bye. Are you on a Mac or a PC?
I'm on a Mac.
Yeah, so I can help you with that. So, you know, I bet a lot of people watching and listening would think, I want to be there now. I want to be away from all the stress and the noise and the pollution in the air and the food and the water. So when people come to you, are they often in a transition where they're divorcing or they're looking to change their lives, find a different way of living, or they just come for a vacation?
Both. I do remember somebody standing and it's interesting. I find myself talking to people and saying, oh, you should read this book. And I don't know if I would say giving advice, but comforting and helping people move the directions they need to move. And oftentimes they're walking back to their folly, we call it, the little house, the hut, with a stack of books that I have a lot of books here that I use, but with homework to do. I remember a woman standing here saying, you know, I've trained myself to be a doctor and I just don't like it. I don't want to do it. And I don't know what to do. And then she broke down in tears, all that money and all that time. And I said, I just talked about how that can be repositioned. You can change it. And you want to be doing something that you love. And so, and on and on and on. And so we just dropped very quickly into a place where she felt comforted. And that's the thing that I think is so exciting is I teach a yoga class and it's love. It's people talking to each other, sharing ideas. So it's not just sitting and doing asana, but in between we're meditating, we're talking, we're suggesting things for each other. So that happens a lot. But even if people come just for a vacation, lots of times once they get here, they let go. I remember a woman who said, all I do is sleep. I sleep in the front in this little house. I sleep in the back in my house. I said, obviously, that's what you need.
It's so true.
So sometimes it's a group and sometimes it's individuals and sometimes they're coming for a holiday and it turns into be this life-changing event that they didn't realize would happen. So it kind of goes with the flow. And that's how I realized my life has been. It goes with the flow and listening for guidance, just being still to hear that still small voice is so critical.
It is so critical, is right. So, you know, I was thinking maybe in the final segment, I can talk a little bit about my latest book because I have been having so many guests on and talking about their joys and passions. But the book that I have that's going to be launched in a couple of weeks is very timely now, and it feels like it fits with what you're doing. That is, I've coined an expression called the global PTSD pandemic. It's stress syndrome, because the stress of the fear about the disease and the virus and money worries and everything else, just the stress depletes the body of every bit of magnesium. And then once people don't have enough magnesium, they can't replenish because oral pills tend to give people diarrhea, so that they just start showing all kinds of syndromes, depression, anxiety, bowel problems. And you can go away and you can rest, but that doesn't completely fix the underlying problem, right? So I'm probably going to have to introduce you to this special transdermal, it's called Electra transdermal magnesium. I don't sell it, Patti. I'm not a distributor, but it's become a mission for me to share about it and let people know how they can get it. And I'm thinking that for so many of the people who come and are just really lost and stressed out, it would be really wonderful for them, because one of the things magnesium does is it reboots the electromagnetic frequency in your brain. So it's like paddles that jumpstart your brain and your heart. You know, your heart needs the magnesium to fire, your brain needs it to fire, and your whole nervous system needs it. And then you're in a much better position to take the leap that you took, because what you've done is really remarkable. When we come back in the next segment, I want to talk more about the courage that it takes to just pick up and change your life as you've done. So let's take a break. We'll be back in a moment on Love Never Dies Radio and Dr. Turndorf, Turn on the Love. Hi, it's Dr. J.B. Turndorf here. Are you feeling stressed, tense, jumpy, jittery, anxious, or having panic attacks or angry outbursts or disturbed sleep? Are you worried that you or someone you love is going to get sick or even die? Are you depressed and feeling hopeless, like the world is coming to an end? Or are you suffering aches and pains or stiff muscles, low energy, or falling into self-damaging or addictive behaviors like binging on junk food, the internet, or TV, or abusing drugs or alcohol, or not eating right, or exercising, feeling like, what's the point? If you said yes to any of my questions, you are likely suffering what I call the global PTSD pandemic stress syndrome triggered by the coronavirus pandemic. Don't despair. My energetic system upgrade is your rescue remedy for the panic epidemic that is plaguing our world. The energetic system upgrade has already helped some of today's top leaders. Now you can experience your own energetic system upgrade healing transformation. To find out more and to schedule your session, visit drjamieturndorf.com/energetic system upgrade. That's Dr. Jamie Turndorf, TURNDORF.com/energetic system upgrade.
Love Never Dies is now on the Dream Vision 7 radio network every Wednesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. and 1 a.m. Eastern Time. Dr. Jamie Turndorf, also known as Dr. Love, is the #1 international best-selling author of Love Never Dies, How to Reconnect and Make Peace with the Deceased. If you're grieving the loss of a loved one, tune in and find out how to reconnect and heal any unfinished business using Dr. Turndorf's groundbreaking new Dialoguing with the Departed technique. Visit AskDrLove.com to find out more.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
You're listening to Love Never Dies with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. If you yearn to get along better with your life partner or spouse, friends, family members, and even coworkers, Dr. Turndorf's book, Kiss Your Fights Goodbye, Dr. Love's 10 Simple Steps to Cooling Conflict and Rekindling Your Relationship, shows you how to turn conflict into connection for a lifetime of lasting love. Find out more about Kiss Your Fights Goodbye at AskDrLove.com. This is Love Never Dies with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. This show is for you, the listener. Once again, here's Dr. Turndorf.
Hello again, and welcome back to Love Never Dies Radio on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network and Dr. Turndorf, Turn on the Love on Binge Networks TV. We're talking with Patti Ernst, who had the courage to just pick up, sail away, and change her life, creating a beautiful retreat center in Tonga. So, Patti, did you make this transition after you retired?
Yes, I did.
So
I had taught for 30 years and had retired and was just wondering what to do and decided I needed to move on. My children were away in college, and the man I was with, although a wonderful human being, wanted to tell me how to live my life. And that was, I'm old enough. So in those days, women did what they were expected to do and what their husbands wanted them to do. And I did that for 35 years, actually. And finally, I decided, no, I need to leave. And it was really sad for them when I did it, and my family wouldn't talk to me for about a year. And then 3 or 4 years later, when I built the resort, my husband called me and said, I'm bringing the kids and we're going to help you build. And I thought, my ex-husband, and I thought, what an incredible thing that the love remained. And it was still there, and it just transitioned into something else. And yet I had the freedom. He was living his purpose and his passion big time. And I wasn't. I was just following along. And I just felt this aching inside and this call. And it was called, I ended up in the hero's journey. I was reading Joseph Campbell at the time, and I felt it was the hero's journey. And I felt I went through many dark nights of the soul. And as you go through those, you come out the other side much stronger. You wanted to talk about courage. And it's like the book that I wrote, the first book was Journey to Serenity, Strength, Courage, Faith. And so it was in the relationship I had to build the strength to release myself, to say, it's okay. It's going to be all right in the end. It's going to be difficult in the interim. I think Brene Brown calls it the messy middle. It's going to be uncomfortable now, but in the end, everybody's going to be better off for this change that I'm making. And they're not going to see it now. And so then I developed the courage to leave and to begin to explore the world and begin to decide, what am I going to do? Where is this leading me? And I think the thing that helped me the most was to listen, just to get quiet and to listen, and the answers would come. Or I mentioned earlier that I took a plane back to the United States, and a man sat next to me. We didn't talk. And we got off in Taiwan and switched planes. And I thought he was gone forever. And there he was sitting next to me again with the message he needed to give me, that I needed to buy the houses there. And I could afford houses in Bali, whereas I couldn't afford things. So
you said buy the houses, plural. You bought houses, plural, in Bali?
What they do is they build them there on a lot. And then when they're done, they disassemble them. So while they're building them, you can say, oh, I don't want the railing that high. I want it lower, or this needs to be different. And then once it's built, they take it apart in pieces and put it in a container. So I arrived in Tonga with 5 containers of houses and tables and chairs and shades and everything, dishes, pots, pans, everything I needed to put together a resort when I got here. So I came with 5 containers from Bali. And I looked in America, I looked in New Zealand, I looked in Australia, and everything was so expensive, I could not afford it. And I kept sailing for 2.5 years. And I asked somewhere along the line, why am I sailing? I purchased, or at least land to build. Why am I sailing? And the message came back, because it's fun and you're free enough to do it. And there's more. You will find out. I mean, I knew there was more. And so when I got to Bali and found out, I remember attending a workshop when I was in Alaska with Deepak Chopra, and he said, there are no coincidences. So when this man, meeting the man on the plane, on and on and on, these things just happen in your life. And so I had all the houses built. I think I have 25 houses here right now, 25 structures. And there were probably at least 20 structures all packed into these 5 containers because everything would fold flat. And we got here and built it. And I would walk past, you walk from one side of the island to the other. We have land that goes right through. So there's a northern beach and a southern beach. And I get halfway through and I'd be saying, how did I do this? How did I do this? And I didn't get any answer. And then one day I heard, you didn't. It was done through you. And so that's the reality, is like following your guidance, knowing that it's out there, knowing that you are being guided and directed and supported and helped, and just relaxing into it. But you have to be still enough. And that's why my book is Journey to Serenity, because it's journey to building this place, but it's also journeying to understand how important being in a serene place is.
So this is so important, to being still and quiet. And so many people, my second Hay House book, Love Never Dies, How to Reconnect and Make Peace with the Deceased. I teach in part 2, how to be still and quiet, which is so difficult for people. The monkey mind is never quiet. And so often people will try to force quiet on themselves, and then they're feeling like a failure because I can't still the mind. So one of the things I always like to do is sort of trick the mind into being still and quiet. If you're counting your breath, and engaging in enough busyness with the counting that you can slip into a state of meditation and a trance. How did you teach yourself to get still and quiet?
Well, certainly I've done that. But one of the things I do is write a question in a journal and just sit. And the answer comes. It's so amazing. Sometimes you don't even get the question written and the answer comes. So that's a different way. It's a little more active way of being still and quiet. But it's like, okay, here's my question. Now let me just be with it for a little while. And or just, sitting. Breath is very wonderful. I don't necessarily have to count it anymore. Just observing it, just being with it. But what's happening right now, I love your focus that we are in PTSD right now that COVID has brought on. And so I think the thing is trying to find an answer, trying to find a solution. If we can just stop ourselves from doing that, just release. And I read a wonderful book recently by Michael Singer, The Surrender Experiment. Just realize that the mind will just chatter and chatter, and the mind can be very cruel and mean. And it tells you you're never going to succeed. Just look at you. You're this. It just says awful. And it says things to you which you would never say to anybody else. And so we need to settle that until we find
thing. The mean voices that you're talking about, in the psychoanalytic parlance, we'd say it's the toxic introject, that we swallow mean voices of our parents. And then the voices become disembodied from the parental figures. So we think it's our voice, but it isn't. And the more you try to shut it up, the louder it gets. It's like saying, don't think about a pink elephant. That's all you can think about, right? So what I find is very healing, rather than trying to shut the voice up, because then you can't. And now you've got the mean voice and then another voice saying you're a failure. It's shutting the voice, So
right.
In line with the idea of just surrendering, what I like to do is I like to just put a name and a face to the voice. Because once you're able to say, oh, that sounds like my mom, how she put me down or put herself down. The minute you can put a name and a face to it, it's already dissolving the voice, because it means it's not me, it's you. And then you don't have to try to stop it or shut it up. You just label it and say, oh, that's you, Mom. And then I watch it float on by, like a balloon floating across the landscape. And eventually, the more you can observe that voice, right, as separate from you, then the more you're able to drive a wedge between you and it. And it just dissipates on its own, because everything that you've done that is so successful is through surrender, not trying to push the river, but just letting yourself float on the current. So that's how the healing comes in every way. Yeah.
Going with the flow is
Exactly.
so important. And that's why being here. When we're back where you are, and I go a few times a year, you're watching television. It's tell-a-vision. So it's telling you a vision. When I'm here on the island, I'm sitting, playing among the stars, sitting on the beach, looking at the sunset, sitting around a campfire by myself or and being quiet and creating a vision. So if you get to the point where you're creating a vision, creating from yourself, creating from the love inside, or the love that's coming to you, or the love that's supporting you. But the television is just putting one into you. And so it's telling you the vision that you should. So this is nice to be.
I never heard that
aware.
before. I like that. Tell a vision instead of just allowing a vision to bubble up. Yeah.
Allowing a vision to bubble up. And that's what this place allows. And I love it when people can come here for a week or 10 days or 2 weeks. A man from Poland, a doctor from Poland, brought his family here for 3 weeks the last year. Last year. And it was wonderful because he said it was so wonderful just to immerse yourself in this opportunity. There's no television here. There's no, it's just nature, you and nature, and swimming and walking along the beach and observing and feeling the sand and feeling the wind in your hair on your skin. And it's just immersing us in something that is so natural and normal and so loving. It's the way we were meant to interact with the planet in a loving way.
What you're saying is very true, because one of the exercises I talk about in Love Never Dies is just to be in nature, because nature is synonymous with being in the now. So the animals, the bugs, the birds, if you really tune into nature, you are in the now. You're just being in the naked now. And that's how we want
just to be. Yes. And that's beautiful too. I love it, because it really does pull you into the moment. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So in the third segment, we're going to be taking a break in a minute. In the third segment, because we're really going with the flow. This is not a scripted conversation. We're going with the flow. Is there a place where you would like to go in the final segment? Do you have a thought, or you want to just further go with the flow?
I think glowing with the flow. I go to the sea all the time and dance and sing, "This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine." It's an interesting, I said, glowing with the flow. So let's just.
All right. So we're going to glow with the flow after we glow to a break. Okay. Be back with you in a moment on Love Never Dies Radio and Dr. Turndorf, Turn on the Love on Binge Networks TV. Hi, it's Dr. J.B. Turndorf here. Are you feeling stressed, tense, jumpy, jittery, anxious, or having panic attacks or angry outbursts or disturbed sleep? Are you worried that you or someone you love is going to get sick or even die? Are you depressed and feeling hopeless, like the world is coming to an end? Or are you suffering aches and pains or stiff muscles, low energy, or falling into self-damaging or addictive behaviors like binging on junk food, the internet, or TV, or abusing drugs or alcohol, or not eating right, or exercising, feeling like what's the point?
If you said yes to any of my questions, you are likely suffering what I call the global PTSD pandemic stress syndrome triggered by the coronavirus pandemic. Don't despair. My energetic system upgrade is your rescue remedy for the panic epidemic that is plaguing our world. The energetic system upgrade has already helped some of today's top leaders. Now you can experience your own energetic system upgrade healing transformation. To find out more and to schedule your session, visit drjamieturndorf.com/energetic system upgrade. That's Dr. Jamie Turndorf, TURNDORF.com/energetic system upgrade.
Love Never Dies is now on the Dream Vision 7 radio network every Wednesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. and 1 a.m. Eastern Time. Dr. Jamie Turndorf, also known as Dr. Love, is the #1 international best-selling author of Love Never Dies, How to Reconnect and Make Peace with the Deceased. If you're grieving the loss of a loved one, tune in and find out how to reconnect and heal any unfinished business using Dr. Turndorf's groundbreaking new Dialoguing with the Departed technique. Visit AskDrLove.com to find out more.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
You're listening to Love Never Dies with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. If you can't stop crying over the bodily loss of a loved one, Dr. Turndorf's #1 international bestseller, Love Never Dies, How to Reconnect and Make Peace with the Deceased, will show you how to toss out the tissues and transform your grief into joy using her groundbreaking new Dialoguing with the Departed technique that enables you to reconnect and even heal unfinished business with those in spirit without the assistance of a medium, channeler, or psychic. Sign up for Dr. Love's free newsletter at AskDrLove.com and receive an exciting gift, a free excerpt of Love Never Dies. And now, back to Love Never Dies with Dr. Jamie Turndorf.
Hello again, and welcome back to Love Never Dies Radio and Dr. Turndorf, Turn on the Love. Patti, it's really fun being with you. I can feel the love that emanates from you, and that you have no agenda.
Thank you.
Yeah, no agenda. It's wonderful. I saw you taking notes. Yeah?
I was just writing down a couple of things that I wanted to make sure that we said. I think if we look at COVID as an opportunity, I think it can be, I think it's an opportunity for the planet to heal itself. We're all sent inside. It's like somebody said, okay, go inside and think and get quiet and think about what you've done. And kind of looking at the planet and looking at ourselves, we were running ourselves ragged. I mean, just pushing and go. And we've had an opportunity, and I've noticed people said that they've reconnected with their families more. And they're beginning to work from home, and they're not running around on the expressways. And that helps the planet because we're not polluting as much. And so it's an opportunity. And if we can look at it that way. And so by redefining yourself, reinventing yourself, a lot of people have to do that now because their jobs have vanished. And so I've always looked at things as an opportunity. In my book, it says, I was thinking you had read that, but not necessarily. I mean, everybody that's listening hasn't read it. But whenever I hit a problem, I think, it's a Buddhist saying, another problem, another opportunity to grow. Another challenge, another opportunity to grow. And every once in a while I'll go, no. And my partner will say, Patti, stop. Remember, it's an opportunity. And so if I look at each thing as an opportunity, and I think that if we look at COVID in that way and say, how can this benefit us? How can we relax into it? And so in the process, remember, I heard you say, or somebody say, remember to breathe on your little ad there. And I think that's so important because when we stop and take some nice deep breaths, it resets our nervous system. We go from fight and flight back to rest, digest, and create. So we go from a fear mode to a love mode. And so and that's so important to move us from fear to love. One of the favorite songs I've had my entire life is, if you hear the song I sing, you will understand. You hold the key to love and fear right in your trembling hand. Just one key unlocks them both. It's at your command. What are you going to do? Are you going to choose fear or choose love? So I think choosing love and then choosing to look at it as opportunity and say, how can I use this to change my life? But how can this be used to change our lives? And so I love the introduction you did, was just beautiful. I mean, it was so wonderful and covered so many areas. But I think if we look at the world, we have been living for my entire lifetime, fighting and war and fear and the love of power and profit. Profit has become such a difficult issue for us right now, because we're destroying a lot of things on the planet because of the need for profit in oil and gas and pharmaceuticals and on and on and on. And so the profit is the thing. And if we just get back to nature, nature has all the answers. And if we get away from killing what we think is hurting us in a war type setting and get back to loving it and finding out, I remember studying the Course in Miracles, and it says people who are hurting are the ones that hurt others. People who are happy and loving do not go out and hurt others. So if we can, and we're dividing as a society, it's us and them now. It's more divided than I think it ever has been. And so we need to just pull ourselves back, stop and think, stop and listen.
It's so interesting what you're saying, because I remember thinking about Hitler, and how Hitler came to power was by instilling massive fear in the population. When people are afraid, they regress and feel more childlike, and they're much easier to lead. And that's what seems to be going on in our world now, as we are so afraid of being sick, and we're going to leave our bodies, our loved ones are going to leave their bodies. And I'm seeing people with the masks on, even when they're alone in their own car. You know, it's like just this absolute, or they're taking a walk by themselves in the country, mask on. The fear is just so extreme right now. And then people don't think straight. They just follow orders, you know, and this is the opposite of how our souls want to live. Free, to be completely free with ourselves, free to listen to ourselves, free to hear. I was actually having the fantasy that you would start to do events at your place for people who want to change their life path, and literally make your place be the birthing ground for that. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's what I think this is for. The problem right now is we are restricted because of fear. I mean, now, our government.
Are people not allowed to come now because your government shut down the doors so people can't come in?
We have no COVID. And even at that, I love staying on the island. I don't go anywhere anyway because I love it so much here. But there is no COVID. And so, and our medical facilities are very minimal. And so they don't want to bring it in. And they're allowing repatriation to occur. People come back who were caught out at one plane a month. And they keep them 3 weeks in isolation. So but Australia and New Zealand have been very, very tight. People have called them draconian. They've really been tight, but they have very few cases. I think 1,000 have died in Australia and 700 in New Zealand. I mean, very, very low numbers. And so they're talking about opening a bubble here. But sooner or later, we will get beyond this and things will open back up. And I can't think of anything better than to turn this place into exactly what you're talking about. And I have run some workshops, but it's hard.
Now, why don't you do it now before people can come in, do it over Zoom. So what you could do is you could
exactly. I was just going to get to that. Yeah.
Do it, right? And you could bring people in virtually. You could take videos of the different parts of your property, and you could bring people into meditation, you know, in your lovely little, your little outdoor spaces. Yeah. I don't, because I think if we wait until, I'm convinced that I'm being given this message for you. If we wait until the restrictions are lifted, sometimes when the pain is over, people forget, you know, and they just fall back into the old ways. And if you could grab the opportunity now while people are miserable, you know, come on in virtually and let's begin your rebirth, you know, here, so that they could reinvent themselves during this pandemic. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying. And what I've been doing recently, I have a hard time with social media, but I've been preparing a set of things to release on social media. Me doing a simple yoga class on the beach, doing a campfire.
I don't
putting
think
some
you don't have to do this. You don't have to do this on social media. What I'm thinking is, well, you could do a
but
post.
and then moving to a class. But go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, just, you could just do a post inviting them to come into your Zoom, right? So because you could do, I mean, you could do Instagram Live. I did a webinar on Zoom, and we did an Instagram Live. There were hundreds of thousands of people in the Instagram Live, and then we moved them into the webinar on Zoom, right? So then they come into Zoom, and then you could do your yoga, you could do whatever it is you want to do within the Zoom. And I mean, you don't have to charge for it. You could just collect their email addresses, so that way you're able to, you know, connect to them via email after the fact. And yes, you just use social media in order to bring them into the registration.
Bring them in.
To the registration. I think people are so desperate now. Like, I have a patient who's been a teacher, a music teacher, her whole life, absolutely loves it, loves connecting to the students. But now that she can't be with them, she's trying to teach music on the computer. She's actually thinking she wants to change her life, because this is just, it's just not the way she wanted to be, you know, with people. And I think that because you have so many multi-talents between the Reiki and the massage and the yoga, you might even be able to do some yoga certifications. You know, people could become yoga teachers, and because spirit is born on the breath. If you can breathe, you can connect to spirit. God is love. Spirit is love. You can reconnect to your loved ones in spirit through the breath. You know, that's part of what I teach people to do. And you're doing it through yoga. You know, all roads lead home, back home.
That's great. Yes.
Yeah.
No, I've been thinking that and moving in that direction, because even at the best of times, it's expensive for people to get here.
Yeah.
And so it's wonderful to get here, but it's also not easy for everyone. So doing it on the beach, and doing it
Why not?
so that they're really feeling a bit immersed in it. So
Wow.
that certainly has been coming to me also. And I thank you for your confirmation of that.
Yeah.
I saw something, I just wanted to mention too, I saw something where you were doing a talk, and you mentioned going to Lilydale. And I lived near Lilydale and had gone to Lilydale only once. But I thought, oh, I'd even forgotten the name of the place. And when you said it, it was like, oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. This is so typical of women. So I had Hay House published Love Never Dies, and Lilydale asked me to come and give a talk. And it turns out it's the same weekend James Van Praagh is there. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he's going to blow me out of the water. You know, he's so, you know, huge and this and that. My event's going to be empty. So I get there. It's hard to get there. And I end up completely filled to the rafters. There were no more seats. And my husband in spirit signed into the event. I don't know if I can screen share. Yes, I have the permission to do that. I've never shown this before. Lilydale sign in. So what happened was they did allow people to walk in and not buy tickets in advance. So there was a sign in. And so after, here it is. I've never shown this before. Look, this is so absolutely cool. Okay, where is it? I found it 2 seconds ago. They're going to be sorry they let me, do the screen share. But here it is. Okay, here it is. Can you see this? I'm sharing this. Can you see it?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so this is Lilydale, and you see Jean Pain. It was hard for him to sign from Spirit.
Wow.
Jean was better than the Pain. And you see, what they said was that they were sitting at the desk at the door, and then they looked down, and his name appeared on the page. And notice he didn't pay anything. He gypped me.
That's great. Oh my gosh.
I know.
That is beautiful.
So that's Lilydale. Yeah. And I thought, when you're following the direction that you're supposed to take, it flows. When you let go, the energy can flow. So I was led to go in this direction, not to be a mainstream shrink anymore, help people reconnect with loved ones in spirit, heal their unfinished business. And so I just get out of the way, and then, Jean shows, I'm here, I'm helping you, but I'm gypping you the sign-in fee, but I'm helping you in the event. So to come back to what you said about Lilydale, about COVID. So it's an opportunity for us to say, wow, there was something I always felt I was called to do. Now's the time to do it. And I see you helping people on that path through your place. So let's make sure everybody knows how to find you, the name of your place, because we only have 1 minute left. Give all your coordinates. Okay?
Wow.
I know the time flies.
So, well, it's online, www.serenitybeaches.com. SerenityBeaches.com. And it also comes out as Serenity Eco Resort. So it's either one will bring us in. Maybe it's easier to remember Serenity Eco Resort. But online, that
remember Serenity Beaches. I think so.
Okay. So that's the place. And on there is my phone number and my email and all the things that are needed. And you get a sense of what it looks like, where I am. And I do believe that helping people. And I've written 2 books, and both of those books are helpful for people who want to make a transition. The one is Journey to Serenity, which is a story about my journey. But the other one is called A Path to Serenity, just released last week. And it gives the process I went through, and the process anybody might choose to go through. There's a bibliography of the books I read at the end. There's some quotes, but it's very much supportive of this process.
Wonderful. I'm so glad you came on the show, and I wish you all the success. Keep me posted. Let me know how you do, and come back anytime. You're welcome. And Bob, my engineer, I want to thank you, because we were going to have an engineering switch, and I said, no, I want my Bob to stay with me. And so Bob said, okay, I'm staying. So thank you, Bob, for making another beautiful engineering miracle for us today. So I'm going to see you next time.
Jamie, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Jamie, thank you.
Coming. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.